I was an only child with very busy parents and went to a school, not a neighborhood school, so I didn't know people at all. And so my only company was books. And um, my parents did have a wonderful library, and I read everything. And started at age 10 or 11 as a way of responding to what I was reading, writing small things myself, small stories, small poems. They had mostly the 19th century poets, um, uh, wonderful little anthologies, and a beautiful little leather-bound edition of Emily Dickinson, which was the only poetry book of just one poet that they had. So I read a lot of Emily Dickinson when I was 11, 12, 13. And um, I went to a really good school where in sixth grade we had something called creative writing, a term I had never heard before, and I thought that this wonderful sixth grade teacher had invented just for us, and so that's when I started sharing work with people, and I wrote all through high school, worked on the literary magazine, and had a poem in the back of the graduation program, which was exciting. Then I went to Radcliffe, and they, in those years, didn't really care about the creative work of any of its students. It was all um, studying and reading the great poetry of the past. And that's not at all a complaint. By the time my daughter was at Harvard, there were all these writing classes that she took and everything. I'm happy that I had those years of just studying with great professors, the great poets of the past. Um, I did a little bit of writing then on my own. I couldn't find a professor who would look at anything. They just didn't have time. I don't think I exchanged a word. On the other hand, everyone complained about never meeting the professors, only meeting the section men, and my section man was called Richard Wilbur, which was, I mean, who knew who Richard Wilbur was then? Um, and I took a couple of the poems that I had written and sent them to what was then very well known, the Mademoiselle Writing Contest. And I won that. And um, it's a great, it's greatly humorous that the runner-up was Sylvia Plath, but I have that on my desk. I love it. Linda Olenek Pastan, winner, runner-up Sylvia Plath. Um, and so I actually was published when I was in college. I was married when I was in college. And then all of a sudden, um, the way you were brought up if you were a woman in the 50s took over. I felt that I had to have a homemade meal, including a homemade dessert on the table every day. I was writing a thesis because I was still an undergraduate, and the one thing that there wasn't time for was poetry, so I stopped completely. Um, I went to graduate school um, for a year at Brandeis um, because they paid not only my tuition but my babysitter fees. I had a child when I was 23 and worked with someone I had never heard of who never mentioned he was a poet named J.B. Cunningham, who was incredible. And I had an individual tutorial with him, and he assigned a different form every week. And so I had great training in formal poetry, although I don't write a lot of it now. I still do some. Um, and then my husband got an internship. He was at medical school while I was in college at Yale. And although he got a perfectly good one in Boston, we didn't even discuss if I should stay in graduate school. You just did what was better for your husband's career. And we moved to New Haven, where um, you could not go part-time to graduate school, and I had a baby. Women were not allowed in the English literature part of the Yale Library because of a codicil in someone's will, which clearly they ignore now that there were women at Yale. So I just stopped altogether for about 10 years and was very frustrated during those 10 years. I knew I was supposed to be writing poetry. And by then I was pregnant with my third child in 1964, and I don't know what precipitated it, but my husband said that he was tired of hearing what a good poet I would have been if I hadn't married him, and we would do something about it. And so we hired a sitter every morning for my very new baby. My boys were older, they were in school, and made this rule where I'd have to sit down in the study every day for 4 hours, whether I felt like it or not, unless the kid was sick. And I did that for, I guess I was 32 when I started, and until I was 60, I did that every single day, whether I felt like it or not. And then I discovered that no matter what I did, I was writing about 2 poems a month, and I allowed myself to just write 2 poems a month whenever I wanted to. I didn't have to sit in a stupid study. And when on my 70th birthday, I said I could write just 1 poem a month, um, although I continued to write two. This very artificial sounding discipline is very necessary for me. Otherwise, I would spend my time reading mysteries and watching football and cooking, and I really am basically lazy. So that kept me at it, and I'm still at it.